The Intergalactic Summit on Veridia Prime was, by all accounts, the most significant diplomatic gathering in 3 centuries. Delegates from 17 star systems had converged upon the gleaming crystal spires of the Veridian Congress Hall to discuss trade routes, territorial disputes, and the delicate balance of power that kept the galaxy from tearing itself apart. And then there was Earth. Humans were the newcomers to this cosmic stage. Their faster-than-light drive was barely 50 years old, their diplomatic protocols still considered charmingly primitive by the older, more established races. They were eager, earnest, and perpetually underestimated. Ambassador Marcus Thorne of the United Earth Confederacy knew this all too well. He had spent the last 6 months watching his proposals politely ignored, his gestures of goodwill met with condescending smiles, and his species treated like enthusiastic children crashing an adult dinner party. But Marcus was patient. He had to be. On the 3rd day of the summit, during a break in negotiations, he found himself standing alone on a terrace overlooking the luminous city. The towers of Veridia Prime glowed with bioluminescent fungi, casting the landscape in shades of soft blue and violet. It was beautiful, but it was also lonely. He missed the chaotic green of Earth, the unpredictable weather, the smell of rain on concrete. He was not alone for long. A soft chime announced someone's approach. He turned to see Ambassador Sylara of the Xylos Collective gliding toward him. She was a striking figure, tall and slender, her skin a shimmering iridescent silver that shifted colors subtly as she moved. Her eyes were large, dark, and utterly unreadable, 3 times the size of human eyes, giving her an eternally surprised expression that belied her sharp intellect. She wore the flowing ceremonial robes of her people, woven from light itself, or so it seemed. "Ambassador Thorne," she said, her voice a melodic resonance that seemed to vibrate in the air rather than travel through it. "You are alone." It was not a question. The Xylosians were famously direct, finding human small talk baffling and inefficient. "I am," Marcus replied with a warm smile. "Just taking in the view. It's spectacular." Sylara's large eyes swept across the cityscape. "It is functional," she said. "The bioluminescence serves to regulate the mental state of the populace. It is not designed for aesthetics, but for social harmony." Marcus chuckled softly. "On Earth, we just call it pretty and leave it at that." Sylara tilted her head, a gesture he had learned indicated confusion. "Pretty," she repeated, as if tasting the word. "This is a concept your species values highly. The Xylos Collective values efficiency, logic, and communal well-being. Individual aesthetic pleasure is inefficient." "Maybe," Marcus said gently, "but efficiency isn't everything. Sometimes, the things that make us happy are the things that make no logical sense at all." Sylara considered this for a long moment. The silence stretched, but Marcus had grown accustomed to the Xylosian way. They did not fill silence with noise. They let thoughts breathe. "You are different from the other humans I have observed," she finally said. "They speak in circles. You speak in lines." Marcus felt a warmth spread through his chest. Coming from a Xylosian, this was high praise indeed. "Thank you, Ambassador. I take that as a compliment." "You may," she replied. And then, without another word, she turned and glided back into the Congress Hall, leaving Marcus alone with the luminous city and a strange, unfamiliar sense of connection. That night, Marcus could not sleep. He lay in his quarters, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Ambassador Sylara. She was enigmatic, yes, but there was something beneath the cold logic, something he couldn't quite name. He thought about their conversation, about her curiosity regarding the word pretty, about her observation that he spoke in lines. It was the most genuine interaction he had had since arriving on Veridia Prime. He thought about the other delegates, The condescending sneers of the Zarvan, the dismissive waves of the Veridians, the complete indifference of the Andromedan envoy. They all saw Earth as a backwater, a novelty, a species that had stumbled into the stars and didn't quite belong. But Sylara hadn't looked at him that way. She had looked at him like he was interesting. An idea began to form in his mind. It was small, insignificant really. Probably against protocol. Definitely against protocol. But it felt right. The next morning, before the summit reconvened, Marcus found a small artisan shop in the lower levels of the Congress Hall. It was run by a Veridian craftsman who specialized in creating items from nullstone, a locally sourced material that was completely inert, lacking the bioluminescent properties of everything else on the planet. The nullstone items were dull, gray, utterly unremarkable by Veridian standards. Tourists rarely bought them. Marcus purchased a small, hand-carved figurine. It was a simple thing. A bird in flight, wings spread, caught in a moment of pure freedom. It was crude by the craftsman's standards, but to Marcus, it looked like hope. He wrapped it in a piece of soft cloth he had brought from Earth, a small square of hand-woven cotton his daughter had given him before he left. It smelled faintly of home. During the midday break, he approached Ambassador Sylara in the main atrium. She stood apart from the other delegates, observing the crowd with those large, unreadable eyes. "Ambassador Sylara," he said, his heart beating faster than it should. "I have something for you." She turned to face him, her expression shifting through colors of curiosity. "A something?" He held out the small bundle. "It's a gift. A human tradition. We give gifts to people we appreciate, to show respect, or friendship." Sylara stared at the bundle for a long, uncomfortable moment. The Xylos Collective does not have a tradition of gift-giving. It is considered illogical. Possessions are communal. Individual ownership is temporary and functional. Marcus felt his confidence waver. "I understand. I don't mean to offend. It's just our conversation yesterday. It meant something to me. I wanted you to have this. A small thing. Nothing important." She reached out and took the bundle with both hands, her long, delicate fingers wrapping around it with surprising gentleness. "Nothing is important," she said, "until it is given with intention." She did not open it. She simply held it, looking at Marcus with an expression he could not decipher. Then, she turned and walked away, the small bundle clutched against her chest. Marcus watched her go, feeling foolish and hopeful in equal measure. The summit continued for another 3 days. Marcus did not see Sylara again during that time. She was present in the negotiation chambers, but she avoided his gaze, and they did not speak. He began to worry that he had committed some terrible cultural faux pas, that his simple gift had been interpreted as an insult, a bribe, or worse, a declaration of something inappropriate. The other delegates seemed to notice the distance between them. The Zarvan ambassador, a hulking brute named Voreth, made a point of sneering at Marcus during a particularly tense trade negotiation. "Still trying to buy friends with trinkets, human?" Voreth rumbled, his voice like grinding stones. "Your primitive customs are amusing." Marcus said nothing. He kept his eyes forward, but his stomach churned with anxiety. On the final day of the summit, as the delegates prepared to depart for their home worlds, a Veridian aide approached Marcus with an urgent message. "Ambassador Thorne, you are requested in the private observation chamber." Immediately, Marcus's heart sank. He was being summoned for a reprimand. The gift. It had to be the gift. He had violated some obscure protocol, and now he would pay the price. Earth's reputation, already fragile, would be further damaged. He walked to the observation chamber with leaden feet. The door slid open silently, revealing a small, circular room with a panoramic view of the luminous city. Standing in the center, bathed in the soft blue light, was Ambassador Sylara. She turned as he entered, and for the first time since he had met her, her expression was readable. It was not cold. It was not logical. It was vulnerable. "Ambassador Thorne," she said softly. "Thank you for coming." Marcus stepped forward cautiously. "Ambassador Sylara, I received your summons. Is everything all right?" She did not answer immediately. Instead, she reached into the folds of her robes and withdrew the small bundle he had given her. The cloth was still wrapped around it, but it was worn now, creased from being held. "I have not opened it," she said. Marcus blinked. "You haven't?" "I could not," she replied, her voice carrying a tremor he had never heard before. The Xylos Collective does not experience the emotion you humans call anticipation. We do not look forward to things. We do not hope for outcomes. We calculate probabilities and accept results. But this. She held up the bundle. "This has created within me a state I cannot calculate. I find myself thinking about it when I should be focusing on negotiations. I find myself holding it when I should be resting. I find myself wondering." Marcus was speechless. He had given her a simple gift, a crude carving of a bird, and it had apparently broken her brain. "The other delegates have noticed my distraction," she continued. "Vorath has made comments. The Veridians have expressed concern. I have told them nothing. I have protected this anomaly. And I do not know why." She looked at him, and her large, dark eyes seemed to hold the entire weight of her confusion. "What have you done to me, human?" Marcus took a slow, careful step closer. "I haven't done anything," he said gently. "I just gave you a gift. It's something we do on Earth. It's not about logic. It's about feeling. I gave it to you because I felt a connection. Because you saw me as a person, not just a representative of a primitive species. Because you spoke to me in lines, not circles." Sylara stared at the bundle in her hands. "Feeling," she whispered. "The Xylos Collective suppresses feeling. It is inefficient. It leads to chaos. Our ancestors learned this lesson through centuries of war and suffering. We evolved beyond emotion. We chose logic." "Did you?" Marcus asked softly. "Or did you just bury it so deep you forgot it was there?" The question hung in the air between them. Sylara's silver skin flickered through a cascade of colors, a visual representation of internal turmoil Marcus had never witnessed in a Xylosian. "I am afraid," she said quietly. The words seemed to cost her immense effort. "I am afraid to open it. Because if I open it and it means nothing, then this feeling will have been for nothing. And if I open it and it means something, then everything I have been taught, everything my people believe, is called into question." Marcus felt a profound sympathy for her. She was standing on the edge of an existential abyss, and he had pushed her there with a stupid little bird figurine. "You don't have to open it," he said. "It's just a thing. It's not worth your pain." She looked up at him sharply. "You do not understand. It is not the object. It is the intention. You said yourself, nothing is important until it is given with intention. Your intention was pure. You saw me. Not an ambassador, not a Xylosian, but me. And you wanted to give me something that meant something to you. That is. She trailed off, unable to find the words. "That is what?" Marcus prompted. "That is love," she whispered. The word echoed in the small chamber. Love. A concept the Xylos Collective had erased from their cultural vocabulary millennia ago. Sylara's hands trembled. Slowly, with the care of someone defusing a bomb, she began to unwrap the cloth. The square of hand-woven cotton fell away, revealing the crude nullstone carving of a bird in flight. She stared at it. Marcus held his breath. The bird was ugly by Veridian standards, gray and dull in a world of light and color. But as Sylara turned it over in her delicate fingers, something shifted in her expression. Her large eyes widened further, if that was possible. Her silver skin flushed with a soft, warm pink, a color Marcus had never seen on a Xylosian. "It is flying," she breathed. "It is captured in a moment of freedom, of joy." "It's just a bird," Marcus said. "On Earth, birds fly wherever they want. They don't follow logic. They follow instinct. They follow the wind. They follow their hearts." Sylara looked up at him, and for the first time, tears welled in those enormous eyes. Xylosians did not cry. It was biologically impossible. And yet, there they were, glistening droplets of silver liquid clinging to her lower lashes. "No one has ever given me anything," she said, her voice breaking. "In my entire existence, no one has ever looked at me and thought, I want her to have this. Everything I have is allocated. Everything I am is for the collective. But this is mine. This ugly, beautiful, illogical, wonderful thing is mine." She clutched the bird to her chest, holding it as if it were the most precious object in the universe. And in that moment, Marcus understood the magnitude of what had happened. He had not given her a gift. He had given her a soul. The end. The news spread through the summit like wildfire. Ambassador Sylara of the Xylos Collective, the epitome of cold logic and emotional detachment, had been seen crying. She had been seen holding a primitive human trinket. She had been seen smiling. The other delegates were horrified. The Veridians called for an emergency psychiatric evaluation. The Zarven accused Marcus of biological warfare, of introducing a contagion of emotion into the Xylosian delegation. Vorath demanded Marcus's immediate arrest and extradition for crimes against galactic stability. But Sylara stood firm. She addressed the assembled delegates in the main Congress Hall, her voice steady despite the silver tears that still stained her cheeks. She held the small stone bird in her hand for all to see. "You call this a trinket," she said, her melodic voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "You call it primitive. You call it a threat. I call it the first thing in my existence that has ever been mine alone. I call it the first proof that your species, with all your wars and your greed and your chaos, is capable of something my people forgot long ago." She turned to look at Marcus, standing alone among the hostile delegates. "You are capable of love," she continued. "Not the calculated love of duty or obligation. Not the transactional love of alliance and trade. But the simple, illogical, beautiful love of one being for another. And that terrifies you. Because if love is possible, then everything you have built on the foundations of fear and control is a lie." The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted over each other. Vorath pounded his massive fist on the table. The Veridian moderator called for order, but no one listened. Through it all, Sylara walked calmly toward Marcus. She stopped before him, close enough that he could see the faint pulse in her slender throat, the way her silver skin shimmered with that warm pink hue. "I am returning to Xylos," she said quietly. "I do not know what will happen to me. I may be exiled. I may be reprogrammed. But I will take this with me." She held up the bird. "And I will remember that somewhere in the galaxy there is a human who saw me. Not an ambassador. Not a Xylosian. Just me." Marcus felt his own eyes growing damp. "I wish I could do more." She reached out and touched his face, her cool fingers tracing the line of his jaw. "You have already done everything. You have reminded me that I exist." She stepped back, her large eyes holding his for one final moment. Then she turned and walked away, disappearing into the chaos of the Congress Hall, taking his simple gift with her. Marcus stood alone in the crowd, surrounded by shouting delegates and crumbling alliances. He did not know what the future held. He did not know if he would ever see Sylara again. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He had given her a gift, and in return, she had given him proof that even in a galaxy governed by logic and fear, a single act of kindness could change everything. The human delegation returned to Earth the following day. Marcus was quietly reassigned to a minor post on a remote colony world, far from the political machinations of the core systems. He never complained. He spent his days watching the alien birds wheel against unfamiliar skies, and he thought of her. Months later, a small package arrived at his colony outpost. It bore no return address, only the seal of the Xylos Collective. Inside, wrapped in a piece of fabric that shimmered with woven light, was a small carving. It was crude, primitive, made by hands unaccustomed to such work. It was a human figure, standing tall, one hand raised in greeting, and beneath it, a single word written in careful, painstaking script. Scene.